I had a great lockdown because everybody was at home and watching Masaba Masaba.
After the release, you really do not know what people are going to say, and showing the baby to people, and then somebody comes out and says that baby is very ugly and you want to slap the person.
वैसी डायरेक्टर को आई थिंक क्राइसिस मैनेजमेंट करनी होती है.
Backing of Nikhil Advani and all of that, where he's treating you like anybody else. He's shouting at you the same way he'll shout at a guy. He'll yell at you the same way and he'll hug you the same way.
I've worked in very strong women-led teams from Deepa Mehta and Meera Nair and Zoya and Reema.
Hi everyone, I'm Monica. I'm a senior journalist at Bollywood Hungama. So nice to meet you virtually.
Likewise.
First and foremost, I'm at my native place. So if you hear sounds, that's because I'm with the nature.
Wow.
Where is your native place?
It's in Banaras.
Oh,
Nice. Yeah. It's a good time to be here. I'm a little intimidated because this is such a great panel to be at. So first and foremost, I really want to start with how have you been doing and how are things going now that you all are back to work?
I have to say, I mean, I know 2020 has been really rough for many, many people, and we are privileged when we say this, that I have to say that it's been a great year for me. Like, I've got to do like a documentary series for Netflix, and we've shot all over, and we've been safe, and no one was tested positive. So good, I think.
Yeah, I did most of my post-production during the lockdown. So that went very well. I got to learn how to direct people from home. I mean, the post-production part of it. Luckily, my edit had been finished before the lockdown started. So it's been incredibly good because the film released in the first week of Jan, when things were like, opening out, and it got a great response. So I'm really happy. It's a bit insensitive to say that the lockdown really, I enjoyed it actually. Sorry, but that's the way it is.
Masaba also came out, right? Sonam in lockdown.
Yeah, I had a great lockdown because everybody was at home and watching Masaba Masaba. So, and I got all the comments and all the social media love. So that was great. And then we had enough time to kind of think about what to do for season 2, which was announced yesterday. So we're working on that now, and so now it's actually been great. There was like no riffraff in life, only focus and work and chill.
Actually, I think it really taught us how to adapt. I mean, I don't think any one of us thought we could sit in a room in our house and, direct people out there figuring things out. So I think adapt is the right word for what happened in 2020 for all of us, including whether it's shooting, post-production, figuring things out and making sure that the film is ready and delivered and all set to release on Netflix soon. So, yay.
Tara, you were shooting?
Yeah. So for me, my pre-production, shoot, post-production, सब कुछ ही lockdown में हुआ है. So everything was on Zoom calls, and it's so beautiful how lovely, how well we adapt to changes. I shot for Netflix. It's a short film and should be coming soon. And it was a lot of fun. You do also वैसी डायरेक्टर को आई थिंक क्राइसिस मैनेजमेंट करनी होती है. दिस वॉज एन एडेड वन, एंड फॉर मी इट वॉज राइट बिफोर 3 days before my shoot, my lead actor, he tested positive. So there are a lot of things, and there was a requirement, a certain look was required, which sort of diminishes the choices. But at the same time, this is where your conviction in your project really comes across, and where the team effort and the vibes and the energy really comes in. Everybody was just vouching for the project to start off, and I actually got very good cast just like a day before my shoot. But this is what we are dealing with, right? So another set of new challenges, but I guess there is no challenge that can't be met with a good attitude. So yeah,
2020 has been a humbling experience. We were looking at content as storytellers. We were looking at stories. We were not looking at box office numbers on Fridays. And I think that was a drastic change in how we were looking at stories. And even it was a short film or a big project or tentpole or a small budget project. What has been your experience making projects for digital space and for movies in general? And how have you seen change, and probably what will the change be in 2021 as well?
I'm assuming you all want me to take that. No, I think you've actually answered the question in the question itself, right? The one beautiful thing that we've seen is that in this time when we all, were facing something that was it was unconceivable 2 years ago, that the whole world would be locked in this horrible situation and there would be so much suffering. It's just, it's an ode to the spirit of all the creators about how they still managed to bring out stuff and almost made it a responsibility to distract everybody from everything that was happening. So you're right when you use the word humbling. At Netflix, it's been tremendously humbling to know that you can make a little difference when people are suffering, from so many things, and making them laugh, allowing them to cry, and to make them feel things at this moment. But from the audience, what we've really got to see is they're very open to all kinds of stories, right? We've seen that we have whether we have a Tribhanga or we have Masaba, different facets of women. And now coming up very soon on Women's Day itself is Bombay Begums. So we're seeing a lot of women, and each one of them is unique and different and holistic, and not just, a unidimensional figure that you're used to seeing. But we're also seeing that people have sampled a lot of Spanish content, of Korean content, and we've seen that a lot of our content has traveled outside as well. Whether it was a licensed title from a Telugu film called Ala Vaikunthapuramalu, or it was an AK versus AK that popped up in 40 countries. So it's been like a kind of unifying moment, brought together by these incredible minds that keep bringing us stuff. And we're hoping that this trend will continue, but with a lot less external suffering.
As creators as well, women creators, and in general creators who write scripts, are behind the scenes working, what is the most challenging part to get the script rolling, basically? What is the most challenging part?
Writing
To
something
get
on
the
the page.
script greenlit?
Writing something on the page.
Basically, bring a script to life. What is the most challenging part for you as creators?
As I would second what Ayesha says, the most difficult part is the writing, actually, because for me especially, it takes the longest time. I mean, I'm like the tortoise when it comes to writing, and and then once that happens, you have to have that conviction in that thing that you've written enough to pitch it to people. That's a very, very difficult thing, because it keeps you open to a lot of judgment, and who likes that? But you have to put yourself out, and then find somebody who is equally convinced about what you've written, so that they can produce it or put it together. So I think that is the most challenging, because everything else flows from there, and you're up for that challenge. Whatever comes next, you're up for. But this is the place where you're the most vulnerable, I think, and that's the most challenging.
What I have noticed over the years is I think there's bridges are things are blurring. Basically, we don't call it female oriented films, or we don't call it women oriented. We just call it as a story. It's a film that's coming. It's led by a woman, and it's okay. So have you seen that change over the years as creators, as actors as well?
I feel the change, if at all you're saying, though we still have a long way to go to see that change, I believe. But that's only courtesy of the OTT platforms, which have really flourished, and they have changed the way of thinking. But even if today you have a theatrical release, it will always be, woman-oriented script hai. There's a girl who's leading, and then the business of it comes in. But I also feel this is not to take anybody down, because of course if you're putting something on the theaters, there's also business involved. Somebody has put the money, they also need to get the returns. But what OTT has done now is it's increased the palette of people. Now they know how to consume a female-centric or women-centric led film, which can be an equal gratifying experience, which I think we were devoiding the world of having such an experience because of the logistics and our own perceptions of putting women in a box, and also figuring out that, thinking कि इसके कभी returns नहीं आएंगे, इसके कभी पैसे नहीं आएंगे. But when you see films like all the wonderful women out here have made, and they're doing so well on OTT platforms, I think once the theaters open, I hope the perception would have changed by then. And that's the real test. And if at all we surpass that, I will agree with you, Monica, and say that, yeah, it's not a woman-centric or woman-led film because it's doing equal business. I feel we have a bit of a way to go, but we're in a good space.
Yeah, maybe OTT, the shows and films that are coming out in OTT will change how the theatrical audience also goes in and watches movies. I feel like a lot of times earlier, if it's male oriented, then everybody watches it. But if it's female oriented, then they're like men don't watch it as much. Maybe they just don't give it a chance. But now that they've consumed all the the female led things on OTT, maybe now their tastes have changed a little bit, and they'll say, okay, I want to watch it on the big screen as well. I'm hoping that happens.
You know, I think one of the things that happens with streaming is that it's a choice. You know, it's easy to choose to watch anything. There's a lot less, you know, you have the advantage of watching it on your mobile phone or on your big screen TV. You don't have to have an alignment and people to step out and watch. So I think it's allowing people to be more experimental in their tastes and bringing, you know, the value of choice directly to our subscribers.
Can I also, I mean, like, I think, I could be wrong here, but I think, like, you know, there's the whole business of marketing a film, and a lot of it is like speculative, right? It's like a male-oriented will get more marketing push, hence it'll reach more eyeballs. And somehow streaming breaks that, you know, because you're just like, you have the real data. You know actually who's watching what, and people are watching it.
And how much.
And how much, yeah.
True that. In the last 1 year, if you see foreign shows or Indian shows like Masaba or To All the Boys, it's female-oriented movies and shows. Masaba was a very, very different concept, a new concept and I kind of liked it. We needed that kind of a chill vibe at the time where it was kind of very down. We were so down. We needed that kind of vibe when you were building that script, and I'm sure it must be tough to pitch this to everyone and probably get a lot of no's, and then when it finally started rolling. So how did that happen to you?
So it was Ashwini Yardi's idea, who's our producer. She had this idea that let's make a show about Masaba and Ninaji playing themselves. And I think it didn't go through any no's. I think as soon as Netflix heard it, they said, sounds like a great idea, just let's get it started. And then they approached me to kind of make a show around this concept. Like, it wasn't really clear in anybody's head where they wanted to take it, but we had a cast and we had their characters, I guess, a little bit of them. And then it was very, the most difficult part of it was to figure out, okay, where can we take this? Because it can go anywhere. You can make it, you know, very like, it can say so many things because they are fully developed women with lots of facets of their lives. So we didn't know what to focus on, what kind of story to tell. And then I think when I met Netflix, they said, what will you do with this show? And I said, I just want to make it about women who keep falling and keep getting up again. That was my one-line pitch. And then everything fell around that narrative, because I just felt like these two women are like that, you know. And then we just wrote a story around real events and made it into a proper scripted series. So it wasn't like, you know, that difficult. But just to find that sur was difficult. After that, it was just a fun journey.
When it came to you, Renuka ma'am, you've been in the industry for so long. You've been part of so many movies, and then you go behind the scene, and then there's this great movie that comes out, like Tribhanga, and it's a multi-starrer. It has great cast. Some of them are known for generations. How was this experience, and what has been the response that you've gotten so far after the release as well? Because this is something you get a response for years and years also, because it's on a digital space. So what has been it like for you?
That it has been released on a digital space is so like liberating and humbling at the same time, because you know, as you said rightfully, that it's not dependent on the first Friday or the weekend or whatever. And the fact is that you know, it's spoken to people that I wouldn't have traditionally expected it to speak to. you know, the kind of response that I got. On the sets, I mean, I've been used to multi-starrers, being part of it myself. So that is the easier part, actually. But, you know, you are completely like a child, actually, when after the release, you really do not know what people are going to say. And not like a child, maybe like a mother, I would say, who is showing the baby to people, and then somebody comes out and says that baby is very ugly and you want to slap the person. Yep, it is like that for makers, I mean, but you know, yeah. So, you know, but people do say that about your baby. So you are very emotionally vulnerable at that time. And it was extremely heartening, the kind of response I got. It was like crazy, and the kind of stories that I have. Now I have a whole bhandar of stories of people's families, generations of people. Like I almost feel like a Marquez, you know, who has this history of various families. So this is what, you know, this family of 3 women has generated that kind of response among the men as well as women, because we tend to forget that men grow up with a lot of women around them. Their childhood is spent with a lot of women, their grannies, nannies, their mothers, sisters. So these are stories that they also respond to, and we don't expect that. And that's the kind of response that I've got, and I think that is so humbling. And from Indians from all over the world, I would say, from the entire diaspora, and some people who are, you know, not also Indians. So I think that is the fun aspect of it. When your film goes out to other cultures and you get a response from other cultures, Korean people saying that, oh, we can identify with these characters, and, you know, I mean, various things like that. So it's very, very enriching for a filmmaker, and it broadens your horizon, makes you more strong, makes you want to, you know, kind of challenge yourself and other people the next time also. So that's really wonderful.
I'm going to go around and ask you this question. And I've spoken to certain filmmakers and all. They've told me this one thing, that there was a point where because they were behind the scenes as writers or directors, it took a while for people to take them seriously. Has it ever happened to you, or did you come across ever a story or something like that where women creators basically were not given enough importance just as their male peers? And has it ever affected you in any way?
I'll be brief. I've worked in very strong women-led teams from Deepa Mehta and Meera Nair and Zoya and Reema, and all the units have been very strong with women. So we take each other very seriously. I don't think I've had that problem, actually.
Yeah, actually, neither have I, because to some extent, we've been brought up in an environment where you can do anything, whatever you put your mind to, and then you have a backing of Nikhil Advani and all of that, where he's treating you like anybody else. He's shouting at you the same way he'll shout at a guy. He'll yell at you the same way, and he'll hug you the same way. So there was never this distinction for us. So that's why I probably, thankfully, touch wood, have never had to experience that. But yeah, you never know. Going forward, as it moves forward, but I'm hoping that as we go forward, we never have to face that ever again.
I'll be very honest. It's only in this past 1 year, and I think it's courtesy the lockdown and the OTT platforms flourishing, we've started liking, accepting, commissioning women-oriented scripts. But right before that, when everything was all theatrical, and honestly speaking, OTT, now we all look up to and we're so proud of it. But when theatre was at its peak, OTT used to feel small. Oh no, my project wahan par aa jayega. You know, there was that side of sort of a prejudice was there. So just a year back, I don't think as many women-oriented, or I don't know why am I saying women-oriented. I cringe whenever I say that. It's just stories about the other half of the population that everybody deserves to see. Yeah. I don't know what is this woman-oriented and all, but we were deprived. But we were deprived of that. You know, it's only in this past 1 year that people are okay not having a hero, not having, even if you have an older woman who's not really making out with the younger man, it's okay. I have heard this. Sorry, but for my script, I have heard this that by सारी औरतें हैं तो just get one young guy ना, he can have a small fling with one of the 5. किसी से भी करा दो. So, so I have faced all of that. But that I think in this past 1 year there has been a significant shift, and perhaps this was universe's way of equating things for all of us. You know.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say one thing, Monica, that I think there's also this definition of understanding that people who are doing, females who are leading content are all making content about females, right? I think that's a misnomer completely, because right here you have, you have Indian Predator coming from there, we have Sardar Ka grandson coming from there, and I know that the rest of the ladies here as well right now are working on things. But it's also about the gaze, and I think one of the films that I loved that came out on Netflix was Gunjan Saxena, which was the debut of a young boy who saw the father and daughter relationship from such a beautiful prism. In spite of it being his debut. So I think it's the gaze and the sensitivity and the approach with which when you see Neil's character in Masaba Masaba, you don't see him from a male gaze, you see him as a woman sees him, with his complications, the way that you would look at right? The way that most men tend to look at a woman who you can't kind of box in some way. And it's really interesting. So it's beyond just a female-oriented or male-oriented. It's also about the point of view that is getting represented.
In fact, even in Sony, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lovely.
What a film.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so much. I have to wrap up now. I hope I asked all the questions. And is there anything that I did not ask but you would like to talk about?
We didn't hear any BGM from your end. Where is it? You to said nature's voice.
Show us the other side of your camera.
I kept muting this because I'm so afraid that something is going to make noise.
No, it was all cool. Thank you for the wonderful questions, Monica.
Thank you.
You were a delight. Thank you.
I'm truly honored to talk to you all, and all the very best for all the lineup that's coming up from Netflix. Srishti, you're doing a great job with this kind of content. So thank you so much. Some of the young girls are looking at it and truly aspiring. Some of them are aspiring filmmakers. So I hope this really lets them on to a great path.
Lovely.
Thank you.
All the very best. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Happy Women's Day.
Yeah.